2015 meeting stood in stark contrast to the organization's first annual membership convention. Held in 1948, 77 years after the association was founded, the inaugural event brought around 700 NRA members to the Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C., for what it described as a 4-day gunners get-together. General Jacob L. Devers from the U.S. Army kicked things off with a welcome address in which he emphasized the importance of rifle training for national defense and thanked the NRA for its assistance during World War II. In keeping with the association's focus on marksmanship, subsequent sessions covered competitive shooting, management of local gun clubs, and recruitment of junior riflemen. Politics were not absent from the event. NRA Executive Director C.B. Lister led a session on the legislative picture to explain what the organization was doing to combat gun control laws and to encourage attendees to write personalized pro-gun letters to politicians and newspaper editors. But politicians were. No presidential aspirants made an appearance, and there was no mention of political parties. Barry Goldwater famously said that politicians should go hunting where the ducks are while seeking votes. For Republican candidates in the 21st century, the NRA, which reports having 5 million members, is unquestionably important hunting grounds. But, as the scene from its 1948 meeting suggests, this was not always the case. As we will see, NRA supporters have participated in politics at unusually high rates for a long time, consistently, and typically successfully, opposing gun regulations since as early as the 1930s. Yet, despite this durable political engagement, it has taken the NRA a long time to cultivate the powerful conservative constituency that supports its agenda today and that helped carry Donald Trump into the White House in 2016. Why are gun rights supporters so politically active? And when and how did they come to occupy such an important place in the Republican Party? How has their behavior shaped gun policy? And, crucially, what role has the NRA played in all this? These are the questions this book seeks to answer. I contend that the NRA has played a central role in driving the political outlooks and political activity of its supporters, activity that has had both direct and indirect influence on federal gun policy in the United States. Even from its earliest days as a relatively small organization dedicated to marksmanship, competitive shooting, and military preparedness, the NRA cultivated a distinct worldview around guns, framing gun ownership as an identity that was tied to a broader gun-centric political ideology, and mobilized its members into political action on behalf of its agenda. When the time was right, it joined forces with the Republican Party and eventually became the right-wing political juggernaut that it is today. How a group can construct an identity and an ideology, and what happens when it aligns these behind a single party. That's the story of the NRA, and the story this book aims to tell. The power of the NRA. The focus of this book is on the political power of the NRA. What is the source of its power? How does it operate? How has it shaped gun policy and the broader political system? Central as it is to politics, power can be difficult to pinpoint. We may have a general sense that certain groups are powerful because the observed political or economic environment seems to reflect their preferences and interests. Weak gun regulations, for instance, suggest that the NRA is powerful, just as high levels of economic inequality suggest that big businesses and wealthy individuals have power. However, even when we have good reason to suspect that particular groups are powerful, the ultimate source of a group's power isn't always easy to determine. From where, exactly, does a group like the NRA derive influence? Similarly, it can be challenging to identify the forms a group's power takes. How exactly do business groups translate their resources into preferred political outcomes, such as the election of industry-friendly politicians and the adoption of industry-friendly regulations? This difficulty is reflected in a lacuna in the field of political science, which acknowledges the importance of power but has struggled to explain how groups can build and use it over time. The power of the NRA